Hey guys, welcome to the Blueprint Interfaces and Interaction series. This is going to be part 4. We're going to be changing some stuff up in the code, adding some text renders um, to the items. So we want all the items that you can pick up to have a text render on them when you approach them. And for the doors and chests, we want some sort of interact indicator to show up on the screen, but we only want it to show up for whatever the closest object is so we know what we're actually interacting with before we do it. So that's what we're going to be going over today. We're also going to briefly go over materials because we're going to have to set up a new text render material so that even in dark situations it'll still show up and be visible for the player. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the text render here. So let's go ahead and open up the blueprint chest. Let's go ahead and we're going to add a text render. Oh, we're going to move it. Ah, Jesus Christ. Get out of there. Okay, I'm going to move it up. The default direction doesn't really matter. I'm just doing it because I like to. Okay, let's go ahead and just, for now, we'll just type interact in there. You can type whatever you want in here. You can also make it variable if you'd like to have like the key press or anything else. So you do like interact E. I'm just going to put interact and let's shift it. Okay. Actually, one more thing I'm going to do here is I want it to be centered on this because we're going to be having this rotate to look at the player, and we want to make sure it's rotating on the center and not on like the end over here. Compile, save. Okay. Now we're going to need to change this material because if you see, this is going to be over all the chests now. It's only visible from, well, it's visible from both directions, but it's backwards. We don't really want that. And if you can see, if we take the directional light and we turn this down to like 0, it just disappears. Even at low lighting, it's a little bit, you can still see it, but in really dark circumstances, we want the player to be able to see the interact button. We don't want it to ever really be hidden. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be creating a new text material. So let's go ahead and browse to it. And you can see it's right here. We've got two already. They're both engine based. We're going to take this one since that's the one we're using currently. We're going to duplicate it, and we want it to be near the other ones in the engine so that we can find it quickly for the future. Let's do default unlit text material. Okay, so we've got default unlit text material, and I realized I did text as a lowercase letter, which, there we go. That's more of just an OCD thing, you don't really have to worry about that. Okay, so this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to change this to, we're going to take it off two-sided, and we're going to get rid of raycast, the ray trace shadows. We're going to change it from default lit to unlit, and then we're going to be taking this and we're going to be putting it into emissive color. And now, if we apply and save, we're going to go back to, I don't know why I closed that. We're going to need to go back to the chest, and we're going to need to change some settings here to make sure that this works. Oh, well, first we need to change the material. Here we go, unlit text material. Boom, compile, save. So as you can see, it's glowing. It's only visible from one side, and the light disappears if you can't see it. Now, if you don't want it to glow, we're going to have to change some more stuff. If you don't mind the fact that it glows, you can go ahead and kind of skip through this next part. Um, but we're going to go ahead and decrease the lighting a little bit so that it's not lighting up the surrounding area as much. Okay, so to decrease the lighting on that, we're going to go back to our default unlit text material. I'm just going to pull this out slightly. We're going to pull this down. We're going to multiply it by 0.1 and then plug it into emissive material again. Apply, save. Now you'll notice that pretty much gets rid of the glow. There is still a very, very slight glow, but that's okay. It's super minimal. Your game is probably never going to be pitch black, and if you turn this up to like 1, the glow is not visible. So you could find whatever your lighting intensity is going to be in the game, you could find it, you could go here, and then you can adjust this number until it's closer to what you want. So, like, that's not bad. Let's do 0.5, 0.1. Yeah, see? So, barely noticeable. You can see it a little bit on the door because it's right behind it, but if I shift these forward even a little bit, you can't see the glow on the backside anymore. It's very barely visible on the chest, so I think I'm going to leave it at this, which was 0.5. So we'll save. We can go ahead and close that. We're done. Okay, so next we want it to always face the character, because right now, if I hit play, you'll see it's not changing. It's only showing on one side, and if I move, it just does that. Now, most people are going to interact with the chest from the front anyways, but it's still, that's just kind of bad design. So let's go ahead and make it so the interact shows up facing the character. Actually, before that, what we're going to do next is we're going to make changes to the function itself. We're going to have to make it so these interacts show up and disappear when the character is within range, which means we're going to have to make base changes to how our priority interaction system works. We still want it to be performant, so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make a collision. There we go, capsule. We could do capsule or box here. I think we will go for a box collision. We want to make sure it's only trying to grab stuff in front of the character. And this will let us control which items we're grabbing, which doors and stuff we're interacting with. So let's go ahead and do box. Let's rename this to interactable collision. Hopefully I spelled that right. Yeah, I did. Okay. So now that we've got our interactable collision, let's go ahead and move it to the front of the character. Let's do box extent. It's a little big. Let's go ahead and shorten the X very slightly. Let's do like 70. Yeah. I think that's good. Okay. Let's go ahead and change the collision presets as well. Overlap all dynamic. I think that's good. Character can step up on no. Fence collision presets, dynamic, just overlaps with everything. Let's actually make this a custom. So we'll do, the object type is going to be world dynamic. Yeah. We'll do overlap, 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 world static. This is going to depend a little bit on what you're looking for in this type of game. Anything you can interact with, we're going to want it to overlap. We don't necessarily, it depends on if you want it to interact with pawns and stuff as well. I'm going to go ahead and just leave everything as overlap. This can be adjusted to whatever you personally desire, but I think that's a good starting point. Okay, so we're going to need some of this to be the same, but we're going to change how it functions and when it triggers. So what we want is interactable collision, and then on begin overlap, and then we're going to want to grab on end overlap. So instead of relying on this, let's go ahead and just get rid of that for now. Let's see. Leave that. I'll take all interactables, get, and does implement interact interface. I'm just going to remake it. If you've still got it, you can just copy and paste it over, but if not, then you can do does implement interact. The overlapped actor we're going to put right here. Interface we're going to do interact. Branch. Okay. And then this full collision, we'll do the same thing down here. Overlapped actor and BPI interact. Okay. So begin overlap, what we're going to do is we're going to add to here. We're going to take this, we're just going to pull it across, and there. And over here, we're going to take this, get, and we will do remove. We'll try and just do remove item at first and see if that works for us. We may encounter some issues with that later. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and do a new function here. We'll do add to interactions, or we'll do check distance. Check interaction distance. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this, go all interactables, temp interactions, take this right here, and we're going to just copy that whole thing and put it right here. And we'll need to add temp interactions. So we'll create local again. And then just to put this in right here very easily, we'll just do that. So, back this out. I don't know why I deleted that. Array and delete. Okay. Interactions. And then we'll check through the interactions. We will check through those again. For this one, we don't need this set piece. Because this function is not going to be removing any of the interactions. It's purely going to be checking the distance on them. Itself, we got location check. We're going to need to add this in as a local variable again. And we can set up, we're going to need a return node. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this up here. Reroute. Reroute. Okay. And then we're gonna plug this into the return node. Interactable. Actually, closest interactable actor. Okay. Looks good. Okay. And then every time this runs, we're gonna need to check the interaction distance. Let's go ahead and just pull another one out. Get here. Okay. And then we're actually going to make a variable for this and set. Okay. And now that we've got this, I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. We don't really need this anymore. Because what we're going to do is we're setting up the interactables on collision, and it's changing them in real time. So on trigger, we'll go ahead and just do, I want to keep this for now, so we're just going to set this off to the side, move this back where it belongs. And then all interactables will still be running through the same code as before, because we want to make sure that on interaction it is still pulling the correct information, whatever's closest. But for the actual door itself, we don't really, for the door chest, we don't really need to do these same checks because they're now being done in the other location. We do, however, want all of this previous code because this is for the actual items. Interactions, and then for this, what we're instead going to do is pull out the closest interactable actor, and we're going to go down here, interact, and we're just going to put this all right here. So we'll do any items, false, interact, and then we'll remove the temp interactions and return node there. So this is now all basically going to be unused, it looks like. I'm going to remove that. Oh wait. That's why I pulled that out. Yeah, we'll get rid of that. Okay. We still want all of this stuff because as we add more items into the game or more interactions, we want to make sure everything's still occurring in the right order. Basically, we're just changing how it interacts with the doors and chests. I'm going to leave this in here for now, but I'm going to comment it as deprecated. And I'm going to change it to red because that is my color for deprecated code. And bubble. And delete. Okay. So we've got all that. Looking good. Event graph. Okay. And then the final thing for the chest, we've got this interactable text render here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to change this to not visible as a base level. And then we're going to, we need to add in a way for the text render to be changed to visible when you're close enough. So let's go ahead and pull this out here. Let's do visible. What is it? Set visibility. There we go. Okay. And then we are going to have a direct reference to this. So once we've set the closest interactable actor, we can go ahead and text render. We don't want to do a cast2 again. And this isn't specific enough to pull a custom event. So let's go ahead and go to our BPI interact. We've got all of this. Let's go ahead and add one more. Let's do set as closest interactable. And then here, we don't really need any inputs. But, well, actually, we can do a Boolean true or false. Compile, 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 compile. Okay, so then we will do set as closest interactable message. This is going to be the target, and then the true or false. Let's go back to check interaction distance. Actor is good. Okay. Let's go ahead and just set it to true. And then we need to make sure that the other actors that are not the closest have this set back to false. So actually, we're going to use the same interact interface message, for both. So let's do get location. Yeah, let's do this. So if it's not the closest, yeah. If it's not the closest, we want that set to false. And then let's actually go ahead and just put this in here. No, let's not. Let's wait till it completely finishes. Yeah, let's get rid of that. We need this to be down here at completed. I don't know why I decided that was a good idea. We don't want that to ping off every single item. That would be not ideal. Double DC set as closest interactable false. And then on completed, we'll take the interactable DC, put it here, completed. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's actually put this here as well. Because as it's going through the checks, it's going to check every item. We want it to make sure that everything is set to not visible, even if it temporarily comes up as the closest item. We don't want it to actually change until we get to the end. Yeah. And then it'll set as closest interactable once everything is finished. Okay, I think that's good. And then if it ends interaction, it'll remove it. Okay, and then let's go back to chest, set visibility. We'll pull off the face here. We've got set as closest interactable. So event graph. We'll set the visibility based off this, and then return. I guess I don't need it on the return node actually. Let's go ahead and just remove that. Okay, that all works. Everything in here is still good, and this is still good. Okay, so now just to make sure this works with the chest, let's go ahead and load in. Oh, okay, sorry about that. The engine crashed for some reason. Tested it again, and it does not appear to be working. So let's go ahead and do some bug fix here. Let's see. We changed a lot, so we're gonna have to figure out what we changed that it decided it did not like. Okay. I'm gonna be doing a little bit of bug testing for a while, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave it in the video. I will try to streamline it a bit. We're just going to be checking. We'll do, if that works, do that. If it doesn't work, then we'll do this. Failed. We'll see what we get here. I item base. Okay, so it is interacting with them. Looks like it's interacting with them twice. Okay, but it is interacting, so we'll do true. So if I had to guess, it's probably something in here. Okay, so I figured out the issue. I'm going to go ahead and make a couple changes here and show you what I did. So first, the main issue that we encountered was when we copy and pasted this whole section into the check interaction distance, this location check changed itself back to a default of 0 when we promoted it to a local variable. So it did not update to keep with the value we had here in priority interactions at 1000. It just defaulted back to 0. So inside check interaction distance, make sure to change that back to 1000. That'll show you the one of the troubles of copy and pasting. You got to make sure that if you have any default variables set, you always want to make sure you have them set back to the correct thing, or you'll encounter the same issue that I just had. Next, everything else in here was correct, so we're good there. One other change I made is I noticed that when it was adding interactables to this list, it would sometimes add them twice, because on the component begin overlap, it triggers multiple times on objects that have multiple parts sometimes. So what I did is I also added this function here called check for same interactable. So I'm going to walk you through that. You're going to want to just add a new function, check for same interactable. Inside this, it's pretty straightforward. We take all interactables, we plug it into a for each loop. We come off that with a branch, and then we're going to want to create a new Boolean. I just created it as a local variable. I'm going to go ahead and change the name now. True or false. And for this interactable, this is just a actor. So you can just open this up, type in actor, it'll be right here, object reference. So, just a second. Blueprint writable. Wait. Okay, I'm just going to delete that. I'm just going to make a new one. Name it true, false. Oh, it might not let me because the return node is already named that. Let's name it found interactable, and then we'll do default of false and set it to true. There we go, and then you just want to break it there. Okay. So all of that's good. Event graph is all the same. And then for here, other actor, we just want to make sure that on the component end overlap, we have the does implement interface going into a branch, and if it's does, then it'll check the all interactables and it'll remove the same actor. Set as closest, we'll do this. we just want to make sure that this is removing the visibility on the interact. So there we go, interact. This one is showing up, it's just backwards. And there we go. So, we don't have it set up on the doors yet, so let's go ahead and do that. For the doors, we're going to want to try and copy this text render exactly the same. So default unlit, and then visibility set to 0. And we want to make sure the interface is the same. We'll just do it from scratch. So, text render, leave that. We'll do default unlit text material. Set the words to interact. Set this to center. Go back to viewport. That is not there. Okay. Okay. Now we may want this to show up on both sides of the door. For now though, we're just going to leave it like this. Check gameplay. Okay, and then interface, set as closable. Why did I say that? Set as closest interactable. True. Set visibility to true, and move this up. Turn node, done. Oh, right. We need to make sure to set the default visibility to hidden. Interact, 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 interact. As you can see, it's only going on one door at a time, whichever it believes is closest, or one chest. Okay. So, that all looks good. Next, we want to do it for the items. So, same thing. Text render. Default, we want to do the unlit. We want to set visibility to off. And for this one, you're probably not going to want to say interact for this. You might want to say what the item is. So I'm just going to put gold bar, or gold bar, like that. Viewport. We already set the visibility to nothing. And for this one, the closest interactable, we don't necessarily need it to be the closest interactable. We just want it to be on if it hits within range. So let's go ahead and take a look here. we do this, we overlap, it has the interface, check, double, check interaction distance, set as closest. So let's go ahead and for the priority interactions, interactions, interact, false, we got item here, okay. Let's go ahead and take that, go to graph, check for interaction distance. Interactions. Okay, we got that. And if it has an item tag, we just want it to immediately give it the visibility. So let's do it's valid has tag. Okay. So we want to do, let's do set as closest. Actually, let's pull it off here. So we'll do set as closest interactable message true. And then complete. Actually, this is small enough, we could probably just move this right here. And then just drop this. Okay. So item, directions, do that. Oh, yeah, actually. We don't want that. We want this. And get rid of that. So we can actually, let's move this a little bit more to the right. So yeah, okay. And then event graph, we already have it set so if an item stops colliding, it removes it and sets it to false. So that should be good to go. And then we'll do this, text render again, set visibility, and we'll plug it in like that. Okay, here's hoping it doesn't crash on me. Okay, so that seems to all be working. If they are within range, then they get that. Now what we need to do, well actually I need to move that text render a bit because it's kind of not centered over them. Let's change that to center. There we go. Let's try it on this one. There we go. So gold bar, gold bar. Okay. Now obviously you can change the size of these if you think these are a little bit too large. But let's go ahead and just make sure that. So the interaction's still working. It's only interacting with whichever one is closest. Okay. Oh, jeez. Okay, so that looks good. Yeah. Okay. So now we want to do is the text render needs to turn to look at the person, well, turn to look at the player character so that they can actually read it from all angles. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a function here. Let's call it rotate text render to, say, player. So rotate text render to player. And now what we're going to do is on closest interactable, let's go ahead and add a variable for the player. Well, let's go ahead and just do another basic actor object reference. We'll do player character. Set. We'll pull this. Oh, wait. Let's go here. Closest interactable. We'll add an actor here. And we'll also name that player character. Okay. So we'll do this. Here. And then we will what is it? Function set timer by function name. Let's go ahead and we're going to copy and paste this right here. Actually going to do this, because what we're going to need to do is if this is true, we'll branch off here. So if this is set to true, then we set that as the player character. We do this. We'll do a time of like 0.05. And we'll set it to looping. And then if this is false, we'll do clear timer by function name. So control, copy and paste there. And then we'll do a return node. Okay. And what we're going to do is, I probably should have done this on the chest first, but we will then have the text render. We now have the player character when it starts looping. So we'll take the player character, we'll get the text render. Okay, so for the door, actually, let's have the chest rotate, but let's have the door just be static, because we're gonna have the text render right there, Let's actually attach the text render to the door mesh. We'll duplicate it so it'll show up on both sides of the door. I'm going to make this visible real quick so I can make sure to line this up right. So we'll have it show up on both sides of the door. One on that side, one on that side. And then here, let's go ahead and keep that. Let's do text render 1 as well. Set visibility. Set visibility. And visibility to true as well. I'm just going to disconnect that. We'll ignore the player character for now. And we'll ignore this for now. We might come back to that. Let's see how that looks. Oh, I forgot to turn it invisible again. Text render. There we go. We attached it to the door now, so we've got it there and we've got it there. If we hit interact and it opens, there we go. There we go. Now of course the doors don't open and close, they just open, but that's fine for the test. Okay, yeah, I think that looks better. I think rotating, it probably would have rotated into the door, which would have been annoying. But I think for the chest, we can go ahead and have it rotate. I'm going to go ahead and turn the lighting back up to what it was originally. Okay, so that looks good. Now, for the chests and for the items on the ground, these are good. We'll go ahead and do. We'll do this this rotate text render. Okay. So we'll do this. For the chest. Here. Needs to be a regular variable. We're going to need to access it in the other function. Just go ahead and pull this down like that. Okay. So now we need to create this function because it's not in this one. So rotate text render to player. Let's go ahead and just copy that. We want to make sure it's the same, so we'll just paste that there. There we go. Okay. And then what we were going to do is we need to take the player character and we need the text render. We need to get the world location and get actor location. Okay. Just compile, save that real quick. Okay, so then we'll get direction. So we want from the render to the player, and we will do rotate see. Let's pull this out. Oh wait, that was the wrong one. Set rotation. Let's set, we want to set world rotation. What's the name of that one? Let's try. If I look at rotation. I'll try that one. Let's try that one. And then this is going to be looking at the root, which would be the feet, I believe, on this one. So let's actually add a little bit here. Let's try 50 to start, and then we'll see if that works. Okay, I'll just leave that there for now. If I look at rotation, you know what, actually, let's go ahead and try find look at rotation. Sounds simple enough, so maybe that will get us exactly what we want. Actually, real quick, let me double check. So closest to player, set world rotation. Okay, we'll give it a shot. Okay. Let me change the player character real quick. Movement component down here. Yeah. Use controller desired rotation. Let's get rid of, let's uncheck orient rotation to movement. And our guy should always be looking behind the camera now. Yeah, so. We could maybe try to smooth it a bit. It's a little jittery. It's doing it 20 times per second. So let's go back to this. Clear. Let's just see how, let's just do it, I guess, as fast as we can. Basically on event tick. Yeah, much smoother. Okay, so yeah, I think that's good. So we got chests done. Doors are looking good. We can just have the basic interact. Yeah. Yeah, all that's looking good. Let's see, we got some errors here. It looks like it's still trying to read the player character. Hmm. So that means, let's see. Hmm. Yeah, set as close as interactable. We actually want it to double check the interaction distance, because once we interact with something, if it's moving, if we interact with it, we want it to double check after it does it to make sure that that object is still the closest, and to reset everything. And then set closest interactable. Make sure to put, for the player character, make sure to put as yourself here. Looks like we got one here and one here. Let's check interaction distance. Yeah, okay, so it looks like we're missing some here. These may not be 100% necessary, but it's better to put them in there than to not. So we'll do self and self. Okay. It's good. Actor, player character, rotate text render, get the player character again. This is working. You could actually maybe lower that very slightly. This is kind of up to personal preference. I'll try plus 30. Because we want it to be looking kind of up a little bit, since a player's camera is typically going to be above their character. We want the text to be looking up as well. And then this worked, so we can go ahead and just clear that out. And okay, let's give it a shot here. We'll close that. Okay, it looks like the interact is attached to the chest lid. I'm not totally against that. It's a little bit weird though, so we'll probably move that. I've got it attached to the doors intentionally, but it doesn't really need to be attached to the chest lid. Yep, it's right there. Okay, so yeah, we just want to attach that to the attach. Let me double check the viewport here. Okay. So interact. Yeah, that makes sense. After we'd interact, normally we would want that to disappear, and to make this a non-interactable actor, because once you open a chest, you're probably not going to need to open it again. I mean, it depends. It depends a lot on the game. If it's a one-time chest, then it's not a big deal. If it's a chest for like storing stuff at a base or something like that, depending on the game, then you're going to be opening it a lot, and something like this is a big deal. There's kind of two ways to get rid of that. We can either try to set it so the interact disappears when you've got it interacted with. Alternatively, though, I've got the rotation set to -50 for the lid. If I change that to -40, It should still open, but it might open without hitting the interact. Yep. So it's just below the interact now. So that works. There are a lot of different ways you can handle that, but I think for now that's the way I'm going to do it. And then the last thing, we want the interact messages on the gold bars probably to rotate as well, which means we're just going to take the same, basically the exact same blueprint information we took from the chest, and we're just going to do it for the item base class. So let's go to chest. These we should be able to basically just straight transfer. So let's go ahead and just try a copy paste here. Well, actually we don't need this first one. There. And then we'll go to item base class. We're already in the right area. We'll just do that. Okay. Do that. We'll do it's an item, so it's always going to be true, but that's okay. Okay, variable. If I remember correctly, let's double check real quick actually. So for items, we're using the same name, but it's technically something different. So for items, yeah, right here, check interaction distance. If it's an item, it's just immediately saying it as true regardless of whether or not it's closest. So yeah, we're using the same. Okay, so we do that, we do that. Now we need to create this function. Copy and paste again. And then we're going to go to chest, we're going to go to rotate. We're going to just, we can basically just take all of this and just straight up transfer it over. Item, let's see. We'll make sure everything works here. It should register this as that. Looks like it worked. Okay, so we got that, we got that, we got that. Okay, I don't know, maybe that's a little aggressive. I guess it depends on how many items you have on the ground. Yeah. You probably don't need it to like fully turn like that, honestly. But, and it's looking up at the character, so we actually, we have this to a plus here. Let's just go ahead, you know what? Let's just let's actually do a -20 there, so it's looking a little bit lower. Yeah, that's a little more reasonable. Now when we're right in the middle, it's a little weird. There's a lot of different ways you can set that up, so it kind of falls on personal preference there. It does let you know what it is though, it does follow you. I think it looks pretty okay. Not super great, definitely needs some touch-ups, but okay, so that is everything. Everything is now interacting. It shows you when it interacts. The doors and the chests you can only interact with one at a time. It shows you which one you're interacting with, and then it changes. Looks good. There we go. Yeah, looking, I think that looks good. Alright, well, I think that pretty much finishes up the basics of the interface and interaction series. We've gone over a lot of stuff. The system should be fairly performant. There are some small changes we can make to actually make it more performant even, and I think I may make one final video briefly going over that. It shouldn't take too long. It's just going to be a couple of changes. Um, but I think we'll go ahead and basically make this the final episode, and I will put out an additional performance video if anyone is interested in watching that. All right, well, thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any comments or questions about the video, or you encounter any weird errors or bugs, let me know, and I'll try to help you out. And if you guys have any ideas for other videos you really want to see, let me know. Thank you.